Hunters of Reddit, what did you see out there that made you not want to go back into the woods? I was being watched on the woods. It was the strangest feeling. I got paranoid enough that I began walking all the way to where I knew a park warden was parked. After about 100 meters, I turn around to make sure I wasn't being followed, and I see 3 bears smacking my stuff around. One bear was standing up in the middle of the access road staring right at me. In Illinois there aren't many predators, but the scream of a bobcat nearly made me shit my pants. It's the same in Utah, except in my case it was a mountain lion. I honestly thought I was listening to someone getting murdered. Like this? #X200B. Oh shit. I never realized just how much that sounded like a woman screaming. Yeah, if I ever heard that, I'd have my gun out in an instant. It sounds like the beginning of a horror movie. I didn't see it, but hearing my dad say, once we were safely in the car, a wild dog was stalking us that whole time made me more than a little uncomfortable. The wild dog probably hoped to eat scraps off your kill. They aren't really a match for a grown man, and for the most part they know it. Until they are hungry and outnumber you. Then they get ambitious. I saw an episode of I Was Prey the other day, and a 21-year-old man had to walk to his work at 3 a.m. for a 6 a.m. start because his car was broken. He had to go 5 miles, of which 3 miles of road was through forest, and he heard howling sounds getting closer, and it turned out to be 3 coyotes, and they attacked him by the side of the road from all angles. He got badly mauled and only just managed to survive by fighting back hard, but nearly lost his life. 127 video, not from I Was Prey, but a news story. U2.B+. He had to walk the remaining few miles to his work badly injured on the dark lonely road just to get help, and about 3 cars including a cop car apparently drove past him after the attack and didn't stop. Mind you, I imagine a blood-covered man looming out of the dark might scare a lot of people. But the cops should have stopped. Duck. I've been followed by coyotes while night mountain biking, but they scurry off with any sort of confrontational move. The thing is, they're cowards until they have you where they want you. Then they can be viscous as hell. Once they spring their ambush, you need to fight them. I don't know of any attacks on people in my city, but I do know they venture out of the woods to scavenge and sometimes stalk people walking small dogs, and I guess that can apply to small children. We have mountain lions too, but I've never seen one. I was attacked by a coyote in the suburbs of Denver when I was 17. I'm a very petite lady. It was nighttime and my friend and I were leaving a party. My friend drove an old beater and we noticed the exhaust pipe was coming loose before we got into her car, so we got down on our hands and knees and were tying it up with a shoelace. All of a sudden, I felt something biting my right elbow. It didn't hurt until I felt a second bite and I jumped to my feet and there was a coyote before me. It chased me around the car several times before my friend and I decided to scream at it and wave our arms around. It gave us this look like we were idiots and nonchalantly walked away. I had to get a series of rabies shots. Camping alone in the middle of Missouri the night before turkey hunting. The place I found was a fairly well-used campsite, but no one was there. About to go to sleep when I hear a truck come up. I find a reason to come out, use the restroom, so I can get a look and maybe even ask for some good places to spot turkey. It's a dude and his girlfriend drinking beers and going for a ride. They are super nice, but they mentioned after our chat and before leaving, watch yourself out here. Lots of meth heads and they want stop for bird shot. Want a slug? I probably have a few in my toolkit. I did not sleep at all that night. As soon as your story started, I thought it was going to be meth heads, as I live in Missouri myself. Pleasantly surprised that meth was still involved somewhat, so I wasn't completely wrong. Pleasantly surprised that meth was still involved has topped my list of things I didn't expect to read on Reddit today. Came for the hunting, stayed for the meth. Didn't happen while hunting, but when I was 12 I was looking for bottles in a creek on a dense forested hillside. Hear heavy footsteps behind me. They're slow and sound heavier than a human or even a buck. I almost get paralyzed when I turn around and see 2 holes on a rough leathery bump. A few seconds and a heart attack later, I realized it was just the neighbor's cow that got out and its nose was a few inches from my face. That even scared me. When I went hunting with my dad one time, we saw a homeless-looking guy carrying what looked like a torn cloth and a screwdriver on one of the trail cams. This cam was pretty deep into the woods, and it was no one we knew, so we were pretty creeped out to go back out there. I don't like to jump to conclusions, but that man was obviously going to tie someone up and stab him. Hopefully he was just doing some man versus wild type of hunting. On humans. The most dangerous of game. Went on a camping trip maybe 10 years ago, and in the middle of the night we heard this incredibly loud smack way out on the water. Water carries sound really well, so it woke us all right the duck up. My first though was some drunk deranged motherfucker with a gun was shooting out over the lake, and the sound was a bullet skimming off the surface. Turns out it was a beaver that smacked the shit out of the water before diving under. It happened again in the early morning and we laughed it off, but the notion of being out in the middle of nowhere with some homicidal prick taking potshots at you creeped me out pretty good. One did this to me at night, while I was wade fishing. About 10 feet behind me. Edit, was about chest deep in the water at the time. They do that to warn others of predators. You better back the duck up before you get smacked the fuck up. When I was a kid, a poacher must have thought I was a deer or something and shot a round at me. It impacted on a tree above my head. I immediately fired 3 shots as fast as I could, not at the shooter but in the air. In my hunting group, immediate 3 shots means help basically. My dad and our hunting club immediately came out to find out what the duck happened by honking the horns of their trucks letting me know they were coming. I basically laid on the ground until I could tell they were near the dirt road. Told them what happened and guessed it was probably a road poacher trying to get a deer as it came from the same road. They didn't see him. It was private property and we were always very aware of who was at what location and who was hunting where. Nobody was supposed to be in the part I was at. Scared the shit out of me. This was mid-90s. Reason why I don't like hunting on public property is cause of that, and I don't know the people out there. So I have 2 stories. First, the not so creepy one. I was about 20 miles out in the back country on a week-long hunting trip. By myself. Woke up in the middle of the night to a bear sticking its snout into the fabric of my tent. I immediately started meditating to slow my breath and just weather the situation. Because I knew if I moved or made a run for my car I'd be dead. The next morning I found some paw prints and they were the biggest bear prints I've ever seen. Second. Very creepy story. Was deep in the woods this time too. Set up camp in a very nice little ravine. When I woke up there was a ring of big rocks around my camping area. They weren't there when I got there set up camp. I'm also a stout dude and I couldn't move any of the rocks. I was raised in the woods and now I refuse to go out there without a large caliber gun and I refuse to sleep out in the woods anymore. Edit, my first Reddit silver. Noise. Thank you. Gold now. First time I've ever had gold. Thank you. My dad's story not mine. I had been walking for a couple hours, and I decided to sit under a tree for a while, just see what would happen. As I was relaxing, I noticed this light that kept flashing past my eyes. I looked over to where it was coming from, but I couldn't see what was there. Then I looked down and there was a red dot on my chest. Some asshole was using a laser sight and aiming at me. I yelled at him and started walking towards him, but he ran off. I went back to camp for the rest of the day. He didn't think someone was actually trying to shoot him, but if people aren't going to be safe with their rifles, he didn't want to be out there. I walked up on a meth lab, not sure if that is the right term, while scouting for a hunting spot. I noped the hell out of there immediately. I had never encountered such a thing before, and in hindsight the smell should have been a dead giveaway. It wasn't until I was standing there looking at what looked like a bunch of garbage under camo tarps and such that I realized what I was looking at. Edit, I walked back to where I had cell service, called the sheriff and showed him on a map where it was. Bunch of them went in, found nobody, and made me wait with another officer for over an hour by the cruisers. Over 10 years ago I was in an education graduate school program in Georgia, the U.S. state. We had to do a final project for the program aimed toward adult education training, and one of the women designed a guide to identifying and handling meth labs in the forest. While battling forest fires, apparently quite a few firefighters were stumbling upon meth labs and either getting injured by chemicals in the labs or by the people working in the labs.